Hi Shri, welcome back.
Hi Bhumesh, thank you for having me, and happy to be in your show.
Shri, I think we have talked about a lot of topics, but there is one topic which has been, very hot, but I think we have still not covered in detail. It is from founders, it is from, department heads, BU heads. Everybody asks this question: how do I decide a budget for sales, or how do I decide the cost of sales? So this is one thing which I would want to discuss with you today, because
Sure.
that has been coming again and again.
So there is, of course, there's an interesting topic, and there is no surefire formula, okay, on cost of sales. Everything is, it's a evolved formula, and it's highly subjective for each situation. But we can give, we can certainly give an example of how it works and why, or how important it is for a founder or a CEO or a head of sales or head of finance to constantly have an eagle eye on cost of sales. Yeah.
Yes. So there are questions coming. Let's say for a founder of a company, let's say a startup, they are thinking about, okay, you know what? First few years, maybe first few months, they decide to do sales themselves. But after some time, they realize, either they are not effective at doing sales, or they don't have a bandwidth to do sales. So that is when they start thinking about putting up a sales team together or hiring a sales guy. So what is that number they should keep in mind when they are thinking about a budget? Let's say a cost of sales for for their startup, in terms of, obviously there is a salary involved, there is an incentive involved, and there is obviously travel and other costs involved. So but put together, what should be a number which a startup
So,
founder will look at?
yeah, Bhumesh, I think we had to look at the two perspectives. One, okay, we've been talking about the B2B sales, okay, which is a B2B, what I call as a more as a B2B service business sales. That has, one dimension in terms of figuring out the cost of sales. Then, of course, there is, the whole lot of completely different dynamics when it comes to a B2C, or a B2B2BC, or B2C to, B2C. Yeah. That is a slightly different in terms of cost of sale, because there you also have what is called as a channel, and your distributors. There are many things comes in that play there. But when it comes to B2B sales, which is which is basically direct selling, from a it's important to understand the overall perspective from a startup a founder's point of view. Initially, obviously, the founder himself or herself is the best salesperson. Okay, but the question is that they will soon run out of the limitation of their own bandwidth, because they need to scale up. The one person cannot do everything, so they need to build army. Right? It's like Robin Hood story. Okay, so Robin Hood alone cannot fight the battle, so he needs more supporters in the forest. Okay, to rob the rich. Okay, same thing. Okay, so it's important that typically from a founder's point of view, as I said, the best salespeople, they are the one. But when having established, they know how to sell it. Now they need to scale up the business. Then they need to hire full-time salespeople. Okay. Sometimes, okay, yeah, you can hire full-time salespeople, or you can hire even part-time salespeople. Asking your own inside person as a technical or delivery person also to do the selling. You can do that, but eventually you move into a situation where you need a full-time salesperson. Yeah. Now, what is important? No, I think we talked about that this one about in the very early stages of our series about the cost of sales, which is as the size of the company or size of operation increases, your cost of sale decreases. Okay, if you are absolutely startup, okay, that means your cost of sales can be, by the way, it can be as high as 25-30% of your total revenue. Yeah, but for a highly matured company, let's say, for example, large operations of Tata Consulting Services, or let's say Accenture globally, or you take DXCs or IBM, or even Wipros of the world, at their scale, their cost of sales, again, people, different companies have a different ways of accounting, but we can normalize looking at their financial figures, what they call as SG&A figures, sales, general, and administration. typically the sales cost, let's say a Tata Consulting, all their sales cost is between 4.5 to let's say 5%. Yeah. So like that, if you move on to Infosys, Wipro, it could be 5.5% to 6.5%. So let's say US companies, their cost of sales could be high, maybe 8%. Yeah. Then as your size of the operation decreases, let's say a mid-tier company, so their cost of sales can be, it's important to get this perspective. Okay, their cost of sales can be between 12 to let's say 14%, 15%. Okay, and for a startup, as I said, okay, if you are really seriously investing money, it can be for an effective selling. Your sales cost can be as high as 25%, 25, 30%. Because once you crack open, get a customer, getting a repeat business from the customer, the cost of selling is much lesser. Yeah, but it is getting the first purchase order from that customer, the most difficult part. Yeah, so it's important to get this perspective, global perspective about what is the, how does it measure for a different scale of operations on the cost of selling. Now, coming to let's say in the formative stages of in a startup or a founder's kind of a situation, it's important that any churn, keep that in mind. Any churn of a salesperson adds to the cost. By the way, let's say you have a salesperson, he or she works for let's say 6 months, 1 year. After that, either he goes out or you fire the person. Then what? You have to hire again, right? You can't do by yourself because you have to scale up. So when you try to hire again, that means that adds the cost because that person comes on board, and that person, he or she, takes some time to assimilate, understand what is the value proposition, and then master the art of taking the value proposition to customers, and finally sign up the deal. That takes time, so it adds the cost. So it's important to get that perspective in mind. Okay, how this cost of sale stacks up, adds up.
Yeah, so I remember I was a technical guy, and they moved me to sales, which was obviously, there are categories there. That was mostly account management initially, right? So I'm sure when my founder was moving me to sales department, I'm sure he would have looked at my salary, and he would have thought about whether those numbers are okay, because if they're going to pay me for account management or sales, right? They would have been looking at the percentage of revenue which they are looking from me to manage or create, right? So I'm sure there are numbers which people keep in mind when they are hiring a sales guy or moving somebody into sales, which is probably a fixed salary. So what you said was a large organization will have probably 4 to 8% as a number, but that includes a lot of things, right? Just not the salary, not only the incentives, maybe a travel, foreign travel. I am sure
office cost, yeah.
Liability insurances you have to buy. There is a cost to doing legal documents, legal contracts, right? Everything adds up to actually sales costs. So I'm sure people have to keep this also in mind, right?
I think the point what you brought out is, I think we covered that long time back. Hiring salespeople. The best option, even for a startup, for a founder, is to move one of his or her in-house person into sales. That is the least risk, okay, and high impact more, if you ask. Okay, of course, you can always get higher salespeople out there in the street and bring them in and mentor them, coach them, and make them understand, assimilate them into your organization. These are the aspects actually takes time, right? So if you want a quick turnaround and get going, your best bet is to turn your existing in-house person, maybe a technical person, maybe a project manager, maybe an architect, and ask the person, he or she, so would they be interested to give it a shot? Maybe, what happens many times, I know, being in the technical, everybody has a fear. No, I don't want to do a selling. The best option for a founder is to, okay, no, it's not you move to sales and you're going to die in sales or you're going to retire in sales. No, you try it out for 6 months, 1 year and see what happens. Okay. See, because organization needs help, right? Organization needs people to move into sales. Okay. So you try to find out some in-house person who is ready to take that challenge and move that person into sales. So this one, I think, you are mitigating the risk of lesser cost, because assimilating the in-house person is a lot easier in the sales function than getting an outside person. Yeah. In fact, I would always favor taking in-house person, mentor the person, and coach him, guide him, and make him successful. Once he tastes the blood, you know what? That person will stay there in sales.
That's exactly what happened with me.
Absolutely.
I went from technical to sales, and first, obviously, what you mentioned was that it was easy because I knew the team already. I knew the founders. I know management. So communication gap are lesser because you already know them. Misunderstandings are lesser, right? And second, I think most important thing was I had already had done some deposits in the company for a few years. So they were not they were not putting a gun on my head and saying deliver, because they saw this guy has already added value to the company. We can invest in him for 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
But if you are getting somebody from outside, you are from probably after 1 or 2 months itself, you are thinking whether this guy is adding value, whether he has a right intention, whether he will stay, right? So I think chances of miscommunication is also less.
Yeah, Bhumish, just interject there. Initially in the formative stages, okay, it is better off for a founder or for a startup entrepreneur to build an internal team, okay. However, the rough edge of the team, that is, that's fine, okay. Build an internal team. Then as time progresses, there may be chances that, you may think, oh, why not I get a lateral person from outside, okay. Now, you have to be careful when you get a lateral person outside, not to judge the boat. Yeah, it's important, because once the internal team is there, there are highly fortified people. It's important to make sure that you don't shake the boat too much. But there will be opportunity to get a credible, well-established lateral person to come and enhance the team capability. Yeah. So again, I think what happens in this kind of thing is a very delicate balance. You need to mentor, you need to assimilate, you need to coach the people, and make sure the team bonds well. Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen that happening. Suddenly, sometimes your internal team is not effective, right? And you are seeing a gap, and you would want to hire somebody expert on sales or that industry or that domain specific, right? Because they bring with whatever ready-made contacts of customers, right? So so it makes sense to hire, because your team cannot deliver probably big numbers what you are looking at. But as you said, you have to be very careful, because I have seen disasters happening, like shaking the whole boat or ship because of something coming on top from outside.
Yeah. Again, this particular thing also adds to the cost of sales, by the way. If you shake the boat too much, you know what? The people will disappear after some time. Then again, it adds to the cost of sales. So it's very important to have a fine balance. Okay, so that mentoring and coaching and assimilating the team is very, very important. Making sure that it all adds to lowering the cost of sales.
Yeah. So, okay, so coming back to the same topic, people have been asking this question on startup versus big companies. So, in that, one specific question is like, I was moved to management, right? I was an account manager initially, which is also part of sales team. But the cost for an account management versus the cost for a guy who goes and get new customer has to be different, right? Yeah. So a lot of people think, oh, you know what? There are two business manager or sales managers in the company, but their compensation could be very different. So do you have some numbers in mind, or do you feel that they should be treated same in a company?
No, it's in a highly evolved what you call as an account management or a client engagement management function. Because if you look at, let's look at it, follows this 80-20 rule, right? So in terms of, as you build your portfolio, I think we talked about it in the very early series of our talk. As you build your portfolio of customers, as your number of customers increases, then again you start stratifying, how much of the business comes from the existing customers, how much of the business comes from new customer. Then within that, you stratify existing, new. There are three categories, right? So existing, no, okay, it's existing engagement, it continues, and it requires maybe much lesser amount of a selling effort, but more amount of handling the customer. Then comes the existing new. That means same existing customer, but then you suddenly open up a new opportunity. Yeah, a new line of business within the customer. Yeah, so that is it requires a little bit more intensive sales effort. Okay, then comes of course is a completely unknown territory, which is a new. You have to find a new customer, and from there, of course, you complete a new business. Okay, which is probability of successful, which is very not a simple thing, right? It's the most complex art that one has to get in. So generally speaking, I think compensation structure has to be different in terms of how you pay in a variable for these people. Okay, so for a typical client engagement management, which is handling more of a existing, so variable will be much lesser compared to handling existing new versus existing as a new. Yeah, so compensation structure has to be different, or you have to pay more variable pay for new and existing new category compared to existing.
Yeah. So what you are saying is the highest category is new, which is
Absolutely.
basically
Absolutely.
a new customer, new project,
Yeah.
a new contract, right? Which you are winning,
Yeah.
which has to be the highest. Probably most of the companies should focus their spend on most of their money. But second category is you have an existing customer, but you are getting a new business out of the same
Yeah.
customer, which
Yeah.
requires obviously you go and hunt, or they call it farming inside account, right?
Yeah, farming, exactly. That's right.
Some
Yeah.
use basically.
Yeah.
And third is the least. Basically, I think least incentives, or hardly. I haven't seen too many incentives for people where you're just managing the existing business to continue, right? But first two categories is where incentives are high.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so I've seen
Yeah.
numbers of I don't know. I'm sure you can throw some numbers, but I have seen an incentive of 3 to 4% of the revenue, new revenue which you bring in, just as an incentive apart
No,
from
I
it.
think, well, it can be structured in a different way. Different companies follow not one vanilla structure. So some people follow, okay, there is a new logo. You bring in new logo, and you get a, again, there should be various parameters to judge that new logo. And you may get just one-time check, one-time incentive, okay? And the second one, new logo, you have sign a master agreement. Then you sign multiple opportunities, in the multiple opportunities like each engagement, okay? Then each engagement you cut, I think you give a two things. One is for the same year, and then there is a long tail as the year 1, year 2, year 3. As it tapers down, of course you get lesser in the second year, third year, but I think first year you get a bigger amount. So there are ways to structure that. I think I would say fairly well matured process these days available. Most of the companies do follow that. Okay, they do differentiate for people who bring what you call the rainmakers, who bring new logos, new deals.
Yeah, so I feel in bigger companies, what I've seen is because they have to run a big company, they have to set up processes. So typically they will have a process set where they will have probably some numbers, quarterly or yearly numbers, and based on that there's some fixed numbers which you need to probably get. If you don't hit, let's say 100%, you will, or if you 70%, you'll get, let's say 70% of your variable bonus.
That is because what happens here, in a typical B2B selling is a lot of times teams are involved. It's not only one man sells. Okay, so there will be a team goal probably. Okay, it's not only the salesperson who sells it, and also along with him or her, there is a team that supports that whole process, right? In terms of the proposals and bid management, and you name it, architecture, all those as an initial proposal team. Okay, so what happens sometimes you have a team goal. Okay, secondly, it's also to do with the profitability. Okay, if a particular deal is won with a certain profitability, because there are business finance people who will look at each and every metrics and each and every number and determine how profitable that particular deal is. Okay, so that is also a factor in paying the incentive. Okay, the higher profitability means the incentive will be more. Okay, lesser profitability means incentive will be less. Okay, similarly for the group, what happens? The group, it's not only a customer link. A team will be based upon what is the overall organization target. Okay, This is the target you're going after, because remember, in service business, so once you make a plan, your costs are already built in, because you have to hire people, right? You have to hire the consultant. Costs are already determined. Now, if you don't get the business, so you are actually spending money on the expensive resources you already hired into the organization. Yeah. So there is the overall company-wide targets and company-wide profitability. Then within that, there's the quarterly numbers. All those things will be measured, and it all adds up to the overall formula how an incentive system is calculated. Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel the companies which are large, they are public listed companies, right? They have to look at every business and look at numbers, right? Whether it is making sense to do business.
Yeah.
So that is why they have to follow some numbers, right?
Yeah.
They cannot go out of the way. But a startup has little emotional factor also in a new business, because they are, let's say, first year of business. Even if they are losing a little bit of money,
get the logo in, get the customer in first, yeah. Then figure out the profitability afterwards, yeah. Like Amazon model.
Yeah, so they will say, oh, you know what? Get me one new logo. I'll pay you this much, even if it is not covering up all the, cost is not covered. They'll say, okay, go ahead.
I'll get a T. Yeah, go ahead.
So I feel, startups can probably go out of their way, make some changes here and there. But when you are joining a large company, they have a process set up. They can't do a business which is loss making, because this is not one person who you need to answer, which is your boss. There are 20 more people who are involved in decision making. So it is not that flexible, but startups are much more flexible. They can sometimes do a loss making business also, but for long term, they see a benefit. That's why they will do it.
Oh, absolutely. No, because, just to make sure that, B2B selling, it is not just only one person, one man or one woman sells it, okay? As the organization builds up and as it scales up, there are more people involved in your value chain in preparing the proposition to customers. And of course, only salesman goes and sells it, but there's a big team behind that. So it's important for the salesperson to possess that, the networking ability, getting the best out of the team, okay? Those are the other aspects comes in the picture, okay? It's important the salesperson possesses such skills.
Sri, I have a couple of more things which are still pending, but I think today we will have to wrap up here. We are running short of time. Yeah. Thanks for your time, but obviously we'll continue this discussion and we'll talk more about this topic.
My pleasure, as always. Thank you very much, Bhumesh, and happy to be be part of this series. Yeah.
Thank you, Sri.
Thank you. Bye.